All right, welcome back. We're into guide number 3 now for Car Mechanic Simulator. Now we're going to kind of refresh everyone where we were at. We're in our guide save here. The last video, we got our mechanic up to level 5. We did the second story car. So on this video, we'll do the third story car and kind of refresh some tips and tricks along the way. We'll hop right in. We'll pop into our garage. Still Christmas time here at the guide garage. And just to refresh everyone's memory, we're a level 5 mechanic. We have a 1 skill point into fast hands to increase our screwing speed. Just don't tell your girlfriend that you're screwing faster. That's a bad joke. Sorry. Strong arms to increase our taking parts off and on. We got up to level 2 of that. And we also put a point into regular customer to get a 5% discount at the store. As far as garage upgrades so far, we have all the diagnostic tools. Probably the next thing we're planning on saving for is to get the 10 grand saved up to do a garage expansion. That's where we're at. So let's pop out of our garage and we'll go to the phone orders. Well, we have some other customer orders that we could take, which would be a decent way to get some income and some money. But let's go just straight to the story order first. So this is a 1993 Valsalon 2040. It's a Volvo, folks. Again, apparently Playway did not compensate Volvo for using their name, so we don't have Volvos. That's fine. Anyway, let's read the story. Good morning. Hello, young man. Please help me. I set off on a ride and my car stopped working. It shut down suddenly. Fortunately, some good young men towed me to your workshop. If it weren't for them, I'd rather not go into it. Please see what you can do to get it up and running again. I have no idea what has happened or what could have happened, excuse me. Usually everything was working just fine after a 6-month break. Thanks for setting up the workshop here in the middle of nowhere. In the meantime, please allow me to use the restroom. I will see you soon. I don't know where the restroom's at in our gas station shop. I've walked around the shop. I've expanded it in my other save. I've never seen a bathroom, but apparently this guy is using our bathroom. So there's that. We have to change the oil, which past 2 story cars, we've changed the oil. So that's old school for us now. And then there'll be other tasks. We'll see what those are when we get the order. So let's take the order. And here is the Volvo. Let's just sit in it, see what it looks like. It looks like a Volvo. It is not exciting on the inside here. Escape to get out. All right, let's right click on it, bring up our interaction wheel, go to car status, and let's pop right into our order. So we have some parts here that we know we have to replace. The alternator, belt tensioner, a cam gear for the inline 4 single overhead cam, a clutch plate, clutch release bearing. Those go between the transmission and the flywheel on the backside of the engine. Fuel filter, fuel pump. We did that on our first story car, so we remember how to do that. Idler roller, that's just one of the little pulleys on the outside. Ignition wires, an oil filter, a radiator, and a relay type A. Okay. Relay type B, those are fuses that go in the fuse box, essentially. Serpentine belt A, a couple of spark plugs, a starter, timing belt, and a water pump. All right, so we have a bunch of parts that are broken on this car. It's clear why it's not starting. We got to change the oil. And the other tasks were refill washer fluid and change out the other fluids, which we've done this before previously in the other story cars. So this is some of the old and some of the new as far as where these parts lie on this vehicle, but that's fine. So probably the first thing I would do here, there's no parts that are unidentified, so that's nice. I would still go to examine mode. Reason being, if you're not sure where those parts are at, when the story order has already identified parts that need to be replaced, they're going to be marked by a color because they're already identified. So you can see here, there's the alternator in red. There's the oil filter in red, the starter in red, the spark plug wires in red, the serpentine belt in red, the pulleys in red, the radiators in red, and then back here in the top of the fuel tank, there's the fuel pump. So we know there's these parts that we need to replace. Let's go to normal mode. And since we're already in here, let's go ahead and top off the windshield washer fluid first. We'll just get that task out of the way. And remember, the bottle goes up. As soon as the bottle changes position, we're full, and we can be done. And that's enough to fill it. All right. Then we have to drain the other fluids. So to do that, recall, click on your action wheel, right-click to bring up your wheel. Select your additional tools and go to your drain tool. Let's drain the brake fluid out of the brake master cylinder first. There we go. And drain the power steering fluid. Done. And I think they wanted us to drain the radiator fluid. We have to replace the radiator, so we want to drain the radiator prior to doing this anyway. If you don't do that, and you take the radiator off when it's full of coolant, it will spill on your shop floor, and you get penalized for that in the game by like 25 bucks, 50 bucks. There's a fee for spilling oil or fluid. So apparently, even though they have trash all over on the inside of the shop, you spill the fluids, they're very upset, and they charge you for it, even though it's your shop. So apparently, you charge yourself as a mechanic for spilling in your own shop. I don't get it. It's part of the game. It's fine. All right, well, let's go ahead and go to part unmount, unmount the cap on the brake fluid master cylinder, and fill her up with brake fluid. All right. And let's put a little power steering fluid in here. The coolant, we're not going to replace first. We're going to pull the radiator out, which we can do this right here before we even take it into the lift. So we'll just pull the radiator and go to our inventory. There's the radiator right there. I'm just going to right-click it. That adds it to the shopping list. And pull up my tablet. Go to the car parts store. Pull up the shopping list, which is on tab. Radiator C. Buy that. Then we'll go to part mount. Mount the new 100% radiator. Unmount the cap. And we will fill up our coolant. Bottle tipped. We're done. Escape. And go to car status. We'll look at our other task. Brake fluid, coolant, power steering, windshield washer done. And we'll go over here. The radiator C is done. Excellent. So now let's do those relays. That's easy. So find the fuse box. It's going to be in a different location on every car, but it's going to be a square box somewhere in the engine compartment typically. There's a few cars in the game that it's not there. So which of these relays is screwed up? Well, escape out of there, because you have to be outside of the car first, and then right-click, go to examine mode, and you can see it's that big relay here and the smaller relay there. So that one and that one. Go back to normal mode. Let's kick in here. We'll take off that relay and this relay. So then we have a relay type B and a relay type A. Right-click, right-click. Where do you find relays at the store? Hit T to bring up your tablet. Go to the electronics and accessories store. And we'll pull up our parts list. Radiator we got, so we'll get that off. Radiator B, or excuse me, relay type B. And a relay type A. Buy. Remove those from our shopping list. Escape. Go to part mount. Relay type A. Relay type B. And we can put the cap back on. And then we'll just check our car status. And relay type A, relay type B. That's done. So other things here, the alternator, the belt tensioner, cam gear, clutch plate, clutch release bearing, those we're going to have to pull the drive shaft for, so we're going to have to bring it in. Fuel filter, fuel pump, idler roller, ignition wires, oil filter, spark plugs. What else can we do out here in the parking lot? We could take the fuel filter off. So to get to that, I would just click on the tire, click on the fuel tank, and we'll pop off the fuel pump and go straight to our tablet. That's another way you could access the tablet. I don't know if I showed that in previous videos. If you right-click your action wheel, your tablet's down here. Select the tablet, go here, and parts. I didn't add that to the shopping list, so I'm just going to type fuel, and there's fuel pump. Buy. Right-click, part mount. I'm going to show different ways to access stuff. Like a lot of programs, there's always more than one way to do things, and it just probably comes down to your taste, how you want to access things. All right, so fuel pump is done. Check car status. That's done. Fuel filters in the car. We could do that real quick. Fuel filter. Interestingly, you don't have to drain fuel to take these things off or cap lines or anything like that. So again, we already had fuel up. There's the fuel filter. Part mount. And put on the new fuel filter. Well, that was fun and easy. Fuel filter, fuel pump, and the ignition wires, sparky plugs, alternator, belt tensioner, starter, water pump. All right, so let's move the car into the shop, and we'll do the clutch plate and clutch pressure plate. I'll show you how that's done. The first step, get the car up in the air. And while it's up in the air, we can drain the oil too. So while it's raising, I'll walk my mechanic over here to the drain tool, move it over to lift 1. Again, click on this, go to use equipment, drains the oil. Oil is drained, move the tool back. Now we don't have any oil in, so we can pull the oil filter. Now the clutch plate, it sits up on the engine behind the transmission. Now your transmission, on almost every vehicle in the game, there's going to be a starter hooked into the transmission because the gears on that starter turn the flywheel on the back side of the engine, which turns the crankshaft, which makes the pistons go up and down, and that's how the car ends up starting, right? So we're going to take this starter off because you have to take that off before you can pull the transmission. And we want to pull that anyway because we have to replace the starter. So to get to the drive shaft, just click on the drive shaft. Now click and hold it. This will remove it. Now this is a pet peeve of mine. The bolts on this, there's 4 bolts back here on the pumpkin in the back, and there's 4 bolts up here on the transmission. You'll notice you can't zoom in any further to see those bolts. So there's one at the top. That one is rusted. I can just hear it. So right click to put my can of WD-40 on it. So I got the 4 out on that side. So the pet peeve of mine is that I can't zoom in to see those bolts. So it's kind of annoying to see where the bolt's at. It's just my happenstance of having done this so much. I know there's 4 bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom, one at the side and side. So north, south, east, west. If you click north, south, east, west, and you don't get a bolt to move, or you hear that click, 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 it's rusted. Right click on it to bring out your can of WD-40 to spray it. All right, so we got the drive shaft out. Now we can pull the transmission. You just click on it and hold it just like any other part. Find the bolts that hold the transmission to the engine block, and it removes. So here's a clutch bearing. Take that off. I think it was actually the clutch bearing we had to replace, not the clutch pressure plate. I may have misspoke earlier. Pull off the clutch pressure plate and the clutch plate. And we'll check our inventory. Yep, it was clutch plate, clutch release bearing that was bad. The starter's bad, the oil filter's bad. I just added those to our shopping list. Pull this up. Go to here, clutch plate. Now an easy way to find the transmission parts, if you didn't want to use the shopping list to search for things, go to the gear shift looking icon, and it'll pull up all the transmission parts, which are drive shafts, transmissions, and also clutch plates, which are always the first 3 listed up here at the top. So if you just need to buy those, oftentimes I'll just come in here, click this, and just buy those. Again, just different ways to access the same stuff. So we got a clutch plate. Let's get the release bearing. Need a starter, which the starter is not at the main shop. The oil filter is. Got that. So the starter exists in the electronics shop. Buy that. So if you're ever searching a shop and you're like, I can't find this part, check the electronics shop. It's probably there. Performance transmissions are at the performance gearbox. Performance parts are at the tune-up shop. But most of your parts that are just normal parts that you're going to replace are either be at the car parts shop or the electronics shop, generally. Tires at the tire shop, rims at the rim shop. Body panels are one of these two shops. All right, let's go ahead and put our clutch plate on, the 100% one, not the one that was broken. Clutch pressure plate was 75%. The customer was fine with that, so that doesn't need to be replaced. Let's get our clutch bearing on, the nice one that is solid green, not the red one that was broken. Put back on the 77% trans. Okay, and then we can click on the drive shaft, and let's put the drive shaft back on. Again, north, south, west, east for those 4 bolts on the front. North, south, east, west. All right, all 4 bolts are on. Then I can click on the trans, click on this oil filter, put a new oil filter on, and then we can put the new starter on. And I always kind of move my mechanic around if I have trouble seeing where the bolts are at. So you can always, move forward, back, up, and down to get a better look at what you're actually attaching to the car. All right, so the next part, if I look at the car status, cam gear, the alternator, the belt tensioner, this will be on the backside of the camshaft, idler roller, ignition wires, spark plugs, serpentine belt, A, timing belt, and a water pump. So we have to get into the engine compartment so we can pull or drop the car out of the air. Excuse me. Pop this up, click in the engine compartment, and then click on the timing cover. And let's get these belts off here on the front first. Take that belt off. You can work on this a little bit. Now you see how I'm zooming in and out? So you can kind of zoom in and out to find the part you want to remove. Let's get this idler pulley first. That next serpentine belt. Now the alternator and the water pump are both bad. I'm going to click on the alternator so I can see it easier. There's 2 bolts here. Click and hold, and then highlight the 2 bolts. There's the water pump. Can't take that off yet. There is something in the way. Oh, there we go. This wasn't clicking the right spot. There's the water pump off. Oh, shoot. Well, this is a good example. I did this on purpose, right? So we had taken the radiator off and drained the coolant first. Then I put the coolant back in. Where does the coolant go in the car? The coolant gets pumped into the engine by the water pump. So if you're taking the water pump off, it's going to drain the coolant, unfortunately. Well, I should have not put coolant in until I had replaced the water pump. So you can see here, we just got hit with a $50 fee because we just spilled coolant all over our floor because we pulled the water pump with a radiator that was filled with brand new coolant. So that's unfortunate. That's fine. This is a good example of what not to do. So water pump, radiator, drain the coolant before you take either part off. That's fine. Good tip. All right, let's take this crank pulley off. Then we can get to the timing cover. That's off. And then you can see the belt tensioner. That'll come off first. Take the belt off. Take the belt off. Then I can get to the cam gear, and you can see that cam gear is bad. All right. So now we know we need to take the spark plug wires off. That's fine. And all 4 spark plugs, as we zoom in here close, you can see the spark plugs are really rusty, which is the game's way of identifying parts that are bad. There we go. Spark plugs are off. So I think, just double check, alternator, belt tensioner, cam gear, idler roller, ignition wires, serpentine belts, spark plugs, timing belt, and the water pump. So we have all the parts off that we have to replace. If we go to our inventory, we can just add these parts. 4 spark plugs, ignition wires, cam gear, timing belt, belt tensioner, water pump, alternator, serpentine belt, idler roller A, serpentine belt A. The rest of these we've already replaced. Then we'll pull up our tablet, go to our car parts shop, spark plugs. Ah, they're not there. Where are they at? Hit home, electronics, spark plug. Some car parts are at that shop, some are at the other one. Ignition wires, they're at the electronics shop. Cam gear, it's not at the electronics shop. Hit home, go to car parts, cam gear, there it is. Timing belt, belt tensioner, water pump, alternator, not there, electronics, alternator. Which I actually used the shopping list, but if you had just went here, the alternator was also the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th part over. So I could have just bought it that way too. Go back to the car parts shop, serpentine belt, an idler roller A, and a serpentine belt A. Done. So we have all the parts purchased off our shopping list. Let's right click, go to part mount, and we'll put in the spark plugs first. Just make sure you select the spark plug that is 100%. If you accidentally click the red one for whatever reason, that would be bad. Spark plug wires, brand new ignition wires. Then we can get our new cam gear on and a new timing belt. And then a new belt tensioner, timing cover, and I can put the crank shaft pulley back on. Let's put on our new alternator. And you see how I'm rotating my mechanic over so I could see those 2 bolts on the alternator. The water pump, I'll zoom in a little closer. There's a bolt there and a bolt there. Then I can get to the serpentine belt, the new idler pulley, or idler roller A, and then this, oh, that was too big of a zoom. Too big of a zoom. Put on the new belt, serpentine belt A. Okay, so let's check our car status. All parts on page 1 are done. All parts on page 2 are done. We have to put new coolant in because we drained the coolant as we pulled the water pump, helpful tip, and we need to fill it with oil. So we'll go to part unmount, unmount the coolant cap, and we'll place new coolant back in the car. Okay, coolant. And then let's find the oil fill cap. Remove that and place new oil in. Wait for the bottle to tip. And we are full on oil. And if you're ever not 100% confident you filled it with oil, take the dipstick off. Right in the hash marks. Always fun. I mean, we're mechanics. We should be checking a dipstick once in a while, right? So let's double check our order. All things are check marked. Go to complete order, and we're going to get $2,300 for this job. Finish order. And we leveled up to level 6, and we got a case. So we opened 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do number 5. Hey, a bonus case. And number 1. Got more scrap. I'll go ahead and open another case since we got a bonus case. We'll open up number 2. Extra money, and a bonus case. That is great. Well, that was number 3, so let's do number 4 and 5. Another bonus case. We are stringing the cases together here. This is outstanding. Let's do number 1 and 2. Another bonus case. All right, let's do number 3 and 4. Barn map and experience. And we're out of our string of getting additional cases, but that still netted us a fair amount of experience. Took us up to level 7. We have 134 scrap, which is the blue material, and we're up to $4,800. So let's go apply our skill points. So go over to your tool bench. This is the garage updates. We're not investing anything in here. The first thing we're going to invest in is that $10,000 garage expansion. Let's see. We're not repairing parts yet. Let's get some better repair speed or screwing speed. Unlock. So to do that, see, we have 2 skill points, right? 2 available skill points, so we can't get that. The parking alley, we're not going to buy parking alleys right now. However, the next one up would be another 5% discount on parts. That's that's actually pretty useful. I mean, it's, you figure you're buying $1,000 transmission, 5% off, another 5%, 10% off, 15% off. I like getting this. This just makes your life better because you move faster or take parts on and off faster. All right, let's put 2 points into the parking garage being cheaper, even though we're not going to use that for a while because that's late game. All right, so we got our points applied. That's excellent. And just to be safe, I'm going to hit save game again. To get that screen, by the way, I just hit escape and went to save game. Another way to do that, you could just go to your wheel and go to options menu. And then options menu, you have the option to save the game or load the game. Exit to menu, tutorials, settings. Get all that from your wheel. Anything you're looking for, it's probably on the wheel. So just as a preview, where will we be picking up next time? We'll be picking up with a 1999 Hinata Moon MK1 Sunrise. That's a Mitsubishi Eclipse, but that's fine. Another car that apparently we couldn't have used the real name for. But that'll be video number 4, so be looking for that. Hopefully, maybe I'll get that done today. I'm not sure. We'll see how the day goes. But this will be enough for guide video number 3. Lucas, Isaac Parker, hope you enjoyed this, and all the other Twitchers and YouTubers. Hopefully you found this useful. I appreciate all your guys' attention, and have a good afternoon.